Welcome back to Moon Harbor Heroes. Today's issue is Faces, issue 40, Earth Remixed. On the cover, we see Asimov, standing, small, in the bottom center of the page, facing away from the reader. In front of him, a massive statue of Remix stretches towards the sky, keyboards all glowing. Behind that, the sky is covered in screens of Remix's face, all laughing menacingly. We turn the page and our story begins. Our comic opens on Brian in that same alleyway that you were in when you got transported to the cyberpunk kind of world that you cyber digitized yourself into. We can see in the background of this panel dozens, if not hundreds, of those Isaacs that we saw earlier. Those new versions of the Isaac that you created, Brian, though they are much more militarized. They are heavily weaponized and very dangerous looking, and flying through the air in pretty rigid forms, like soldiers marching, except they are flying. We've got the cyberpunk aesthetic of screens and neon and soot and dirt, that kind of clashing of the two worlds. Can everyone add one more detail that's not those things? Something new that we are seeing for the first time in this panel.
How about you can't, or when you look up, you can't see the sky. It's covered by something.
Is it like a cybernetic net? Is there a cyber dome over the city?
I don't know if it's solar panels, or maybe if you were to look really hard at it, you might notice something's moving.
Oh, that's really fun. And we are in the alleyway with Brian. Brian, what do you do?
Well, here I am standing in this alleyway in, of course, decked out in this wonderful hospital gown. I'm going to hide behind something. I'm going to open up a dumpster and look inside.
Excellent. What do you want to find in that dumpster? What are you looking for?
I am looking for discarded mechanical pieces.
Excellent. There's not necessarily mechanical pieces in the same way that you think of mechanical pieces like wiring and stuff. It just looks like everything is made out of different types of metal here, and metal and neon. So there's discarded food trays that are metal, lots of discarded cell phones and that kind of thing. This is a world in which cell phones aren't necessarily a one-use thing, but people replace their cell phones every couple weeks. So there are just cell phones and things like that just littered around. So you've got plenty of mechanical stuff you can tinker with.
Okay, probably got to find a safe place to do that tinkering now.
I'll give you that this alley is pretty clear. No one is currently near you. There are a couple doorways off this alley, and there's a chain link fence behind you about 10 feet down.
All right, so would you say from here I could whip together a couple of gadgets?
Oh, yeah, totally.
That'll do.
And as you're doing that, one of the doors opens behind you, and you see a girl probably around your age, 16, 17-ish, open the door. And at first you just see the left half of her face, and she's peering out. And the left half of her face looks pretty normal. And then she leans the next half of her face out, the right half of her face, and you see that the right half of her face is completely robotic, and that there are wires running from the metal pieces into her lips and into her skin. It doesn't look painful. It just looks like these are cybernetic enhancements. And as you look down, more of her body is robotic than it is human. And she looks at you and she kind of stares and looks very confused. And then she puts out one hand, her human hand, and gestures for you to come in and follow her into the house.
I'm going to quietly follow.
As soon as you're inside, it's very dark inside. You can't see anything beyond the little bit of light coming from the neon signs out in the alleyway. And then the door slams and a light turns on, and she is pinned you to the door frame. And she's staring at you and she's like, "Where did you come from?"
Oh, well, it's a long story. I guess you could say I came from the hospital.
She frowns very deeply and she says, "No, you didn't. That you're not." And then she starts to investigate your body. She's looking at your arm and twisting your arms, probably more painfully than she should be, and turning your head, looking through your hair, and just pretty roughly searching you.
Jeez, you find what you're looking for?
You didn't come from the hospital. There isn't a, and she starts to glitch. And she pauses, takes a deep breath, and then she starts again and she says, there isn't any mechanical element to you. You didn't come from the hospital, or there would be something mechanical to you.
You're right. I came from the past. And I put my arms on my shoulders, or at my hips.
She looks at you very, very closely and then takes like 2 big steps back, and her eyes widen. And like the mechanical side of her eyes widens as well. Like the mechanical side of her face, her eye widens as well. Though it is very much like, kind of like a camera lens, like zooming backwards. And she says, you look like, and then her eye clicks like a camera taking a picture. And then she moves over and plugs her finger into a computer that's sitting on the desk. It's a really old looking desktop for the fact that this is such a like modern looking world. And she pulls up the picture she just took of you. She opens it in a separate window and then minimizes something else. And you see that the background of her computer is a propaganda kind of poster of Remix. And then she looks at the picture, and then she like puts them over top of one another, and she says, you look just like him.
Oh, that's not surprising. Oh, geez, what are we gonna do?
She turns and has a knife in her hand. And it is like a cybernetic knife. It's a knife largely because it's sharpened metal, but there's neon running up it. It doesn't look like the neon's actually for anything. It's just a cool aesthetic. And she has it pointed at you, and she's standing about 6 feet away from you. And she's like, who are you?
I am the one who's going to save you from that man.
Go ahead and roll to provoke. And I don't know if you have any conditions, but if you're guilty, it's a -2.
I am guilty.
Okay, cool. So that is a 5 then. And she takes a big step back and she says, are you part of... And then she blinks and then she says, no, this is a trick. This is a trick. This is. And she like starts glitching, and her whole body kind of glitches with this. And she pulls her finger out of the computer and like stumbles backwards and kind of like reaches over and twists a screw on her neck and kind of recenters herself.
I'm backing towards the door.
She looks at you and she says, I would never betray our ultimate leader, Remix. He is ultimate and he is perfect. He is an infallible being. And her eyes are not agreeing with what she's saying. Her eyes are terrified and wide, but she is repeating these good platitudes about Remix.
Okay, wait. You said some sort of thing tightened on them?
Yeah, she had to, like, when she was glitching, she had a screw on her neck that she had to tighten a little bit to make the glitching stop.
I think I have just the thing for that. I'd like to unleash a gadget to twist that thing in the right direction.
Sure. What does the gadget look like? What is it?
I have some sort of a sling, or like an object in a sling. When I fling it forwards, it's just shaped in such a way that when it hits the thing, it spins around.
Excellent. Are you trying to loosen it so she glitches again, or are you trying to tighten it more to help her keep it in?
I knew you'd ask that. Is it obvious, or should it be obvious to me which one is less evil?
She was clearly in distress when she was glitching. She is much calmer now that she is not.
She is much calmer now that she is chanting about, or now that she's saying these things.
Yeah, it's really tricky right now.
I'm gonna make her glitchy.
Okay, you've got a move that lets you use those new equipment, right?
Yeah, that is, so that's one of my 2 gadgets. And, oh wait, I don't want to roll, okay, well, my roll for superior actually is still better than my roll for freak. So, yeah, okay, yeah, let's do that. Alright. But yeah, this is an unleash your powers using superior.
Alright, so you can either mark a condition or it'll be unstable or temporary.
It'll be unstable or temporary.
Excellent, and that was an 8 for the listeners. Great. So it is unstable or temporary. So you are like basically shooting like a slingshot at her, right? At the screw on her neck.
Yeah.
So it hits her and it loosens, and she starts immediately be like, no, 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 no. And she's reaching up with her like human side, her human arm, to try to like twist it. But her other hand had already kind of like reached up to stop your attack. So her other hand keeps glitching in the way and like knocking her human hand out of the way. And she's like trying to do it while her other hand is just battering her wrist. This is going to be, she'll be able to tighten the screw quickly, but she is very much like glitching and fragging out a little bit. And you've got a moment to do whatever you want to do in this house or to leave.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to be a hero here. I'm popping out.
Excellent. We see you step back onto the hallway. And Allie, what does it look like as you like step out of the white space or step through the comic panel into this page?
Is it an overhead shot when we see Brian coming out?
Let's say it is, absolutely.
And I think like in the gutter of that overhead shot, we see Allie like leaning down, peering into the panel. And she's in her normal attire, though her like hot pink t-shirt says future March Maskness champion. And she's wearing just like over the top mirrored sunglasses. And she just jumps into the panel. So Brian, if he's looking up, would see her just appear out of air, feet first, and just as she falls, just kind of appear falling. And she just lands in front of Brian. Hey, so I'm Allie, and I'm here to save you.
I'm probably caught very off guard by her appearance. Do I recognize her?
You have never met Allie before.
Although we did fight Evil Allie.
Oh, yep, you fought Cinema. So this looks like a younger version of Cinema, like about 5 or 6 years younger.
I think at some point that realization's gonna kick in, and I'm gonna start crawling backwards away from her too. I'm prone on my back now.
And you crawl backwards, and your back hits the chain link fence behind you.
I think this probably comes off more aggressive than I mean, but I like throw my hand forward to like, my intention is to reach my hand out to like grab Brian's hand to pull him up, but it may look a bit more aggressive than it.
I'm smacking that shit away.
I think we get the panel like me like stepping back a moment, like oh yeah, right. I forgot about that fight. I'm not who you think I am.
Who are you then?
I'm Allie. Okay, I'm the same person, but like different universe, you know. Come on, we're here. You should figure that out. Lighthammer sent me.
Oh, you'll see a very distinct sign of relief.
I'm gonna reach my hand out to like offer you a hand up.
Okay, I'm getting up.
So, is the door that you came out of still open?
You seem to come pretty fast.
Okay. Yeah, I glance over at the door. I'm like, so something in there spook you? You looked kind of freaked out even before you saw me.
The people here are half robot, and they seem to be completely brainwashed.
Oh. And I think we get a couple panels like Allie just like looking around with excited look on her face. Like, wait, is this a cyberpunk issue? Lots of neon, lots of robots, drones everywhere. Yep. And I'm going to look at Brian with just the biggest smile on my face. Like, this is going to be fun.
And with that, the girl steps out of the door frame, and her robotic hand has like flipped up. So the wrist is now like kind of just exposed. And it is a cannon that shoots flames at the two of you. Just this blast of fire. What do you do?
I'm in no position to do anything but dodge.
Can I get a close-up on Allie's face with just that giant grin and her eyes start to glow white, and I want to charge my burn?
Absolutely. Go ahead and charge your burn.
I'm sure this will go well. My first roll of every session's always delightful.
That's an 11.
All right.
So you get a hold 3 burn?
Yes.
Sweet.
I would like to like spin towards the fire, and then in my hands is a comic book, and I want to use constructs to rip Sword's shield out of one of the pages and hold it up to stop the flames.
Excellent. You don't have to roll anything for that, right?
Not for the constructs, but
I think I'm actually gonna have you roll to unleash your powers for that one.
Okay.
To see if this construct will stand up to the flame. I don't think it's so much a defend. I think you're just gonna defend Brian, but whether the construct will hold up.
Okay, cool. That is a 14.
Okay.
Jesus!
Cool. Tell me what it looks like as the flame hits the sword's shield.
I think we get that super classic, like, big blast of flame hits it, and it's just, we're seeing, like, a panel of the shield, and then the whole panel just covered with fire, and then the fire dies down, and there's just a scorched shield, and I just lower it to show myself and Brian behind it.
She looks at you, and her eyes are pretty wide, because the shield was not there a moment ago, and then she, like, presses a button on the side of her face, and you see her eye is a camera lens, but a red light glows next to it, like it just started recording.
Oh, I don't like that. You know what? I do. I'm gonna strike a pose.
She looks at the two of you and she's like, neither of you are enhanced, and you don't... Who are you? Why are you here?
I think I'm gonna completely ignore her, look over at Brian, be like, wait, so who's she?
Just a friend.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Lighthammer didn't give me much time, so I haven't been able to research. Is she doing anything while we're just having a conversation ignoring her?
She has her wrist up again, and she's charging to blast fire at you again.
I think Brian's going to feel like he needs to step in and do something if Allie's not paying attention.
I'd like Allie in the background of this to just be flipping through a comic book, completely ignoring the situation.
Amazing. All right, Brian, what are you doing?
Oh boy. See, the thing is, I can clear a condition, but then I'm going to get another condition.
I mean, that sounds like the way masks work, so
yeah, that's the way masks. Yeah, I am going to use my other gadget to she's charging up like a flame thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, I guess this is not an Unleash Your Powers, though. I'm trying to defend Allie. I want to blow away the fires or make them not hit us.
Are you using a gadget for that? What are you using for that?
So it's not Unleash Your Powers, so the gadget doesn't apply. It would just be defend.
So then how are you making the fire go away?
Oh,
I might be able to help make that happen if I can take a moment to use another constructs.
Sure, go ahead.
So feel free to like change any of this, Brian, but like we get a panel of Allie just kind of flipping through a comic book in the background, Brian standing between her and the robo woman, kind of maybe a moment where you're realizing I have a mask, some junk I scavenged from a dumpster, and a hospital gown. And then like Allie reaches into a comic and pulls out Isaac and tosses Isaac to you. Does that work?
Ooh.
That works for me.
You good with that, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, as I toss Isaac, I'm like, oh, God, I loved your concept ever since Blinky and the Brian. So it just feels weird to see you without him.
And I, very much in a panic, am going to hold Isaac and tell him to activate helicopter mode as I hold him sideways so that the propeller blades are in the way of the fire.
Great, go ahead and roll to defend for me.
10, baby.
Excellent. And you don't have any conditions that affect that, right?
Nope.
Cool. Then that is a 10. All right. So you keep them safe and choose one. Add a team to the pool, take influence over someone you protect, or clear a condition.
I am going to clear Hopeless.
Excellent. All right. The fire kind of blasts towards you, but then is immediately dispersed as Isaac's wind like knocks it aside. There are some sparks that kind of go flying, though, and Allie is back to flipping through the comics and has the issue that you're currently in her hand, but a couple of the sparks hit some of the other comics, and they ignite quick. And Allie, as you glance down, all of the comics that you have left, there is not a single one that can get you back to the world you're from.
Well, hey, Brian, I found our twist for the issue.
That's great. I found our enemy.
Oh, yeah, right, priorities. I'd like to use my last constructs. I think I flip to the very back of the issue, and we see, like, fan art of the entire team, like the Standard Faces team. And I want to just reach in and pull out just a non-standard version of Lighthammer's hammer.
Fantastic. What makes it different? What is it like? How does it look different?
I think it's a watercolor piece, and I think it's very like watercolor painting, even in like this world.
I think like the art of it is actually like, moving in your hands. Like it's kind of semi-liquid in your hands.
I'm into that. So Brian is still between us, right?
You're like next to each other enough, basically. He's a little bit in front of you, but it would not be hard to like sidestep and swing.
Cool, because I want to like run straight towards Brian, leap, and then like kick off of his shoulders to throw myself at this woman swinging the hammer.
Go ahead and roll to directly engage a threat.
I just want to be extra, you know?
Naturally.
Are you sure I'm not the threat?
I mean, hopefully not. That's a 10. Apparently Allie can roll.
All right, so on a 10 plus, you choose 2.
I would like to resist or avoid their blows and create an opportunity for my allies.
Excellent. How does it look? What does it look like when you create the opportunity?
I think like I come slamming down right in front of her, hit the hammer on the ground in front of her, and it sends out a sound wave and just throws her into a wall. It's like she's knocked off her feet.
Excellent. And as she hits the wall, her camera turns off. So, Brian, you've got an opportunity to do something. What do you want to do?
I'm going to send out Isaac to have we really seen anything of note besides the camera and the screw?
She's got a finger that can like become like a USB port and like or USB and plug into computers. And her hand is a cannon that shoots fire. Other than that, she's a pretty standard robo person, we think so far.
Well, I mean, of course, Isaac comes with 3 USB 3.0 ports. I'm going to tell Isaac to try to attach to that finger and figure out what it does or what kind of information it can push through.
Excellent. Go ahead and roll to assess the situation for me. And I think Isaac will probably give you a +1 for that.
I don't know why I cleared hopeless instead of guilty. 4.
Excellent. You like plug her finger in, or Isaac plugs her finger in, and all of a sudden, above you, on what looks like clouds, there's this ripple, and we see the screen that is above you. This is just a massive, like, screen dome, just ripple, and we see a face appear. And it is the face of Cinema. And we hear this, like, wicked laugh, and she says, "Looks like we've got an intruder. Isaacs?" And then she points. And as she points, her finger, like, reaches through the screen, and Cinema starts to fall down from the dome far above the city towards this alleyway.
Oh, that's not great. I'm a bitch. This is going to be terrible.
I think this is all you.
Okay. The robot woman, what's she doing?
She's unconscious against the wall.
Okay. So we have a swarm of Isaacs and Cinema descending upon us?
The Isaacs are at the end of the alleyway, so they've got a little bit. Cinema will be there first. But yes.
You're basically her, right? Can you tell me what she's going to do?
I mean, probably try and kill us.
Yes.
And I think, like, Allie is, like, pressing her hands up. Like when you're, like, feeling around for a wall in the dark, but just, like, in the middle of the alley, way away from the... And I think the reader can see that she's close to the edge of the panel, but Brian's probably, like, just seeing her, like, miming, feeling around in the air.
I'm just going to put my hand on my face.
Okay, so, do you trust... You know what, I'm not going to ask that, because I don't know if this is going to work. T, I would like to attempt to grab the edge of the page and bend it so that Brian and I fall onto the next page. I don't know if this is going to land us in a better or worse situation, but I'm hoping we're out of this alley by a page and a half later.
All right. I want you to go ahead and roll to unleash your powers for me.
That's an 11.
Excellent. You fall, and as we turn the page, we see... I'll tell you what we see on the page that you just folded. And we see Cinema, like, land in the alley just as you disappear. And she looks around, and we get a close-up on her lips. So we see this, like, wicked smile. And then she glances down at the first gadget that Brian was using, the, like, sling thing, which has a cell phone in it. And she puts her finger down and disappears into the screen. And then we see you all landing in, like, what looks like a cozy living room. It is still very clearly, like, cyberpunky kind of tavern-y. Lots of neon lights. There is no, like, light bulb. It's just all neon. And there are, like, 4 screens. There's a screen that looks like a fireplace. And there are 2 screens that look like windows, but you can tell they are screens because one of them is glitching. But it's windows looking out onto this, like, beautiful, like, daytime grassy field kind of look. And you were alone in this living room.
So, Allie, your powers are teleportation, huh?
Yeah, that and, like, you know, altering reality. Don't worry about it. Fine. And I think I, like, hastily shove the rolled up comic into my back pocket.
We see an editor's note that appears over you that says, he probably should worry about it. It's not going to be fine.
And I think Brian sees Allie like distinctly look up above her and go, "It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it." Speaking directly to the editor's note. But my plan for getting us out of here may not work. Unless this world has a storyteller. Wait, how much do you know about dimensional travel?
I bit a portal.
Oh. Well, I mean, I guess technically that's more than I know. So, all right, new plan. We find us a portal. You bite it. Wait, bit it? I'm not caught up. Sorry, what?
Oh yeah, I can. Is there like anything I can just like try out my biting powers that I still have no understanding of in this room?
There's a carpet. There's a couch. This is a pretty standard looking living room. There are pillows on the couch.
Is there a bowl of fruit?
There is a bowl of fruit.
I'm gonna pick up an apple and try to get my snake fangs to come out.
I think while you're holding the apple, Allie like gets visibly disappointed. Like, okay, yeah, I can also bite food and make it disappear.
Amazing. Brian, can you go ahead and roll to unleash your powers for me?
I'm getting so much potential today.
You earned that potential. I think you bite it, and there's a moment where we get like a close-up on the apple and like a close-up on everyone's like excited faces. And then the next panel is just like the crunch of you biting into the apple.
And then I want to request a panel where it pulls back and Allie is also holding an apple, takes a bite and goes, "Yeah, cool power." Okay, so does it only work on portals? You know what? We should probably figure out where we are. And I think Allie's going to like go to a window and try to look out.
As you go to the windows, you notice that there aren't windows. There's a door frame, but all the windows are just screens. They're just screens with like a background kind of pretty park aesthetic picture. But you can turn the windows or you can turn the screens on and off and you can't see through them.
Well,
there's stuff in this room if you want to look around though. Like there is a book on the table. And there's a doorway leaving this room. Actually, there's two doorways leaving this room.
As I am chewing this bite, really got to commit to the act there. But as I'm chewing, I'm going to walk around.
As you walk around, you notice that there is a book on the table, and it looks like a diary of some sort, but the handwriting is damn near illegible. It is basically just chicken scratch with a few like crude kind of drawings on it.
Of?
Isaac's, and there's a picture of what looks like a portal of some sort. A couple pictures of weapons. One picture of like a domino mask. Those kinds of things. Just little like notes to like pictures to add on to the notes that you cannot currently read.
Hey, go look at this.
I think Allie walks over like, "Wait, is that it? Isaac? Is this yours?" Oh, that makes sense. I guess if we wanted portals, we'd figure out where Remixed lives, right?
Allie, as you're looking closer, I want you to roll just a straight up superior roll.
That's a 12.
You recognize this handwriting because this is handwriting we've seen a lot in Cataclysm Crew. This is Squire's notebook. And with that, you glance up and see two eyes staring at you from the vent in the corner of the room.
Oh my God. Brian, are you ready for the weirdest fight or the cutest team up ever? And I'm going to point at the vent.
I'm going to look up. Somebody please remind me, does Squire wear like airplane goggles or something?
Right now, all you can see is the reflection of the light on the eyes.
What is that?
In response to the "what is that?" I think Allie just admits a high-pitched, shrieking, like excited sound and goes, "Oh my God, alt reality Squire."
And then you hear a voice coming from the panel, and the voice says, "I don't use that name anymore." And then the vent swings open, and a cybernetic Squire climbs out. Very much still looks like Squire, still a raccoon. She has a metal plate down over her left eye, and it's replaced with a green light. One of her arms is completely robotic, and we can see that like it's got the same kind of like rotating effect that the girl's wrist had earlier. And she's got a vest on. And then she turns and she drops onto her hind two legs and turns and starts walking towards you on her hind two legs. And she says, "I go by the Rook now."
Oh, that's who you mean. Brian was trying to rack his brain the whole time on who Squire was. Sounds familiar.
This is probably inappropriate, but can I scratch you under the chin, Rook?
You see her eyes start to glow, like this, like very, very bright green.
I think that's a yes.
She looks at Brian and she rolls her eyes and she says, I haven't been scratched under the chin in many years. What are you doing in our hideout?
When she says that, I'm assuming the panel is just showing like a close up of the Rook at this point. Can Allie's hand like reach in from the white space and scratch her under the chin?
Absolutely. I'm going to have you roll to unleash your powers to see if that goes off without a hitch.
That's an 8.
All right, do you want it to be unstable or temporary, or do you want to mark a condition?
Market condition. Can I have a suggestion for why?
Yep, absolutely.
After the scritch, can the Rook bite me?
Oh, she blasts the laser from her eye at your hand.
Ah, perfect. I'm gonna mark afraid. And I think our next panel of Allie, we see like her with her hand off to the side and just the hand, like her arms reaching out of the panel, and she pulls it back. It's like, ow. Okay, yeah, no, up, respecting your space. Gotcha.
She looks between the two of you and she says, so, why are you in our base? Why are you here? I recognize you. And she nods at Brian. She says, you are an alternate dimension version of Remix, I would guess. And I don't know who you are, but you look like cinema. So my guess is the same. But why are you here?
Well, I'm here to rescue him. And I'm pointing at Brian.
I'm not sure. Can I by any chance get your thoughts on our, just your opinion on our wonderful and glorious leader Remix?
She spits.
Oh, thank God. We want to take him down. And also get back home.
She cocks an eyebrow and she says, from what I heard, Remix has taken out every Brian across the multiverse. What makes you think you're any different?
You've heard he's taken out everyone? You can see he hasn't.
Yeah, and he's a core line character. You think he's gonna lose?
She cocks an eyebrow at you and she says, I don't understand the language of your region, but I understand the sentiment. And all of that is well and good, but why are you here? And she gestures around the sanctuary room that you're in.
Oh, well, that's kind of my fault. You see, I'd have better context if we accidentally teleport.
She sighs, and then she says, well, my compatriots are due home any moment, so make yourselves comfortable, I suppose. We do have the same goal, after all. And as she stands up a little straighter, we see that she's got a D sewn into the left front chest piece of her vest. It's like a kind of fancy D with a slash across it. And then she starts to move towards there's a little platform in the corner of the room that kind of looks like a cat, scratch post. But she climbs up to the top of that and sits on it. And she sits like a person. She sits hind legs out in front of her, hands in her lap, just kind of staring at the two of you.
Well, this isn't awkward at all.
So, D for Rook?
D for the Defiance.
Gotcha.
Ooh, that'd be a good line name.
She looks at you and she says, line name? What line?
Our world's name for teams.
Is there a trash can I can throw this core out in?
Why don't you just disappear it?
The Rook points at the door and she says, there's a dumpster out if you toss it over the balcony.
Oh.
Yep, plunk.
As you open the door to go out to the balcony, there's a figure standing there that you recognize very intimately, though he probably wouldn't recognize you right away. This is the custodian. Throwback to Blinky and the Brian, issues 1 and 2.
Closing the door immediately. I'm just going to keep holding on to this core.
There's a long moment of silence, and then there's a knock on the door, and the Rook says, can you let my teammate in, please?
Ooh, plot twist.
I make eye movements at Allie.
I give an exaggerated shrug. Sorry. Not much of my knowledge helps here. Everything's kind of weird. I mean, no offense.
You don't know how to open doors?
Oh, I thought you were asking me if you should open it. Gotcha.
I mean, in my defense, it could make sense if you teleport that much.
There's a sharper knock on the door. This doesn't sound like it was knocked with a hand.
I'm gonna open it.
As the door opens, the custodian is still there, but he has taken a step back. And we see a man standing there, And Brian, you immediately recognize this person as Bert. This is a man who walks taller than the Bert we know. He is not slouched over at all, hasn't put on any weight. He is tall and muscular, but older. And he has a cane in his hand that he's used to knock on the door. And he's wearing a, three-piece suit. And he says, "Thank you. I appreciate you letting me into my own base." And he walks past Allie, and then the custodian follows in. The custodian at this point has recognized Brian and glares.
I'm going to try to avoid his glare and reunite with my pal Bert.
Are you hugging Bert? What is happening? How are you reuniting?
Bert, how are you doing? I'm holding my arms open, hoping he's receptive.
He looks at you and he says, "I'm sorry, son. We don't use our Nicholas names here. We use code names. You can call me the gentleman."
Right, the gentleman. Hi. Great to see you again.
And you are?
You know, the volcanoes and stage. Your show?
The Rook, crawls up and is on the gentleman's shoulder. And the Rook says, "They're from a different timeline or a different dimension. I'm not really sure. He probably knows a different version of you." And the gentleman gives a nod and says, "I respect your history with my counterpart, but while we're here, I don't know you, you don't know me. And I think it's best we keep it that way."
So, Mr. I'm gonna look over at the custodian. Mr.
He looks at you and he says, "I'm the custodian, and you are Brian, or Asimov."
Yes, how do you know that?
Never forget a face. I don't know you, but your counterpart is on every poster in the entire city. And we've got history, him and I.
I'm just gonna sit there trying to rack my brain as to whether this guy actually knows me or not.
Do you want to pierce that mask?
Yeah.
Alright, roll plus mundane. And if you're not angry, you don't take a -2 to that.
An 8.
Alright, so on a 7 to 9, you get to ask one question.
How could I gain influence over you?
You see him looking at the second gadget in your hand, and his eye kind of widens, and he is clearly very interested in the technology. As you know, the custodian tends to steal technology from a lot of different cultures. He's got Astron tech, he's got all sorts of fun, cool alien tech with him, and he seems very interested in what you've put together there.
I'm gonna push it deeper in my pocket.
When you look back up at his face, he is staring at you, and he says, "So, what are you all doing here? What is your purpose?" And the Rook goes over and whispers in his ear and fills him in. And then he says, "So you want to take down Remix? Don't you all know that Remix isn't in this dimension right now?"
Oh yeah, no, he's in jail back in our dimension. We're just trying to get home.
He's in jail?
Yeah, they caught him.
Really? Well, that's great to hear.
It's not gonna last. He's a big villain.
Yeah, and I mean, he makes portals and stuff?
No, they took his tech, but I don't know.
Oh.
The writers always have something up their sleeve.
The writers.
Oh, also, this might be a sore question, but where's the Rascal King?
The Rook looks at you and then looks down and says, "We've lost many along the way."
Oh. Normally it's writer conflicts, but this is a lot sad. Yeah, okay, so where does Remix hang out? Where's his tech?
The Rook goes out to the balcony and points, and from where you are, you can see that there's just this big, massive tower that is just made out of screens, hundreds of little screens, and they're all showing different things right now. But it is obelisk-style tower. And the Rook says, "Remix stays inside the screen.
How do we get inside the screen?"
Fight past an army of Isaacs, hope that cinema doesn't catch you, and then walk in the front door."
Allie, you got a better idea?
I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be as simple as all that, but that sounds like a good start. I think Allie looks at everyone in the room, goes, "Weird team up?"
Weird team up!
The gentleman gives a nod, and the Rook gives a nod, and the custodian looks between all of you and says, "Fine, but I still hate him." And he gestures at Brian.
I'd love an overhead shot that of Allie putting her hand out, the center of the whole, everyone putting their hands together. And then it zoomed in on her hand, and she just goes, "Come on, everyone, hands in. It'll make a good cover."
The gentleman puts his hand in, and then gradually the custodian and the Rook put their hands in.
I guess I'll just lay mine on top then.
Moon Harbor Heroes is produced by Anthony Sheets, T.B. Huth, and Elliot Peterson, and edited by Anthony Sheets and Sean Geddes. Anthony can be found on Twitter at IcyNewYear or at IcyNewYear.com. T is a theater artist and educator in the DC area. She can be found at T Huth Playwright on Twitter or TPHuth94 on Instagram. Elliot can be found at Elliot Yellen on Twitter. That's ELLIOTYLEN. Sean can be found at The Crumpit, THECRUMPIT, on Twitter. Moon Harbor Heroes is played using Masks: A New Generation, written by Brendan Conway and produced by Magpie Games. Our logo was designed by Beautiful Beasties. She can be found on Instagram at beastly.doodles or on Patreon at patreon.com/beautifulbeasties. The music in this issue is Black Vortex by Kevin MacLeod. This issue is GM'd by T. Huth. Asimov is played by EXPHP. You probably won't find him at itsexphp on Twitter, but it's worth a try. Ali Vieira is played by Anthony Sheets. If you want to get a hold of us, email us at moonharborheroes@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at moonharborcast. If you enjoyed this issue, please leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice or tell a friend. 5-star reviews and word of mouth are really the best way for us to keep bringing these stories to more people. If you'd like to support us financially, check us out at patreon.com/moonharborheroes. Supporting us there will give you access to bonus issues each month. And thank you for helping us save the world. We'll see you next issue.